Hi everybody. Today I will make a different kind of video. I'm a fan of the new series Infinity Train on Cartoon Network, and I got excited about a particular Ask Me Anything thread from r/Infinity Train. This Reddit thread features the director Owen Dennis and supervising director Maddie Queripel of the brand new series Infinity Train. Have a nice watch. Owen and Maddie here, ask us anything. Wanted to say thank you for doing this AMA first. The show has been really incredible and clever so far, and the details are wonderful. Also rest in peace to the goodest boy/man king. Questions. I absolutely love the soundtrack. What inspired it? Or how did the making of the music inspire the show? Were there any issues with Cartoon Network when the darker themes of the show were brought up? Did they have any hesitations with some of them? Which episode took the most amount of time to complete, from initial idea to full execution? Thanks again for doing this AMA. I'm really excited/nervous/anxious for the last episodes. I can't wait to see them. Smile. Response. 1. I've always been into synthy stuff. I was really into electronic music as a kid and instrumentals and soundtracks. So I bought a lot of Danny Elfman and John Williams scores. With Chrome Canyon, I saw him put on a live score to the movie Metropolis at a theater in LA. It was amazing and I was like, I love this guy's stuff. I listened to his album and it's one of my favorite albums of all time. Also he's nice. I'm going to his house tonight. 2. Actually they encouraged it. We wanted to get into divorce, but assumed they would balk at the idea, so we kept having people say things like separated and allude to the idea of divorce. After our first pitch, they were like, we should just say it. Just go all in on the divorce and really go in depth on it. So we went with it. I'm really happy they did that because it means they were being super supportive in us just talking openly and frankly. 3. They're all different kinds of hard. It's hard to choose the hardest one. However, the easiest one was episode 6. Odd. Hey Owen and Madeline. Thank you for doing this AMA. I discovered Infinity Train in late 2016. The initial short was excellent and I tried to share it as much as possible. The series has been great so far. The effort shows in its fantastic work. Loving the blend of heavier themes. Owen's Tumblr has extremely helpful and supportive info regarding the industry you two work in. For that, I'd like to thank him. A question for you both. Either can answer. Whoever fits. You knew the naming and setup of the ball pit car would lull people, didn't you? Was miniseries always the plan? After interest rose and the short was aired a few months later, did you go into the project with a longer mindset? The concise nature helps pacing, but I'd be lying if I didn't want more episodes or two-parters. The introduced concepts are fascinating, but 10 episodes didn't give much time to expand on all of them. I'm sure you both care about stuff on the cutting room floor, ideas that started but didn't meld with Tulip's divorce storyline. Response. Thanks. 1, maybe. 2, the original idea was a movie. Then I thought maybe CN would want it as a series, so I adapted it to be like an ongoing thing. Then when they brought up the idea of a miniseries, I latched onto that as the best of both worlds. Odd. This is a question for either Owen, Madeline, or both. The Infinity Train community has definitely grown quite a bit since the pilot first came out in 2016, and this has come with a fair amount of fun, interesting, and silly things coming out of it. Cough boots cough. I'm guessing that seeing such a community form from a show in pre-development must have been pretty interesting on your ends. My question here is, what memes, art, discussions, etc. have you seen from the community that stood out to any of you through to today? Let's see. Yes? We've seen the boot for sure. It's mostly just the stuff about what the number means, the mystery of the train, etc. It's been very interesting seeing what theories people have come up with. We actually saw a couple theories like 2 years ago? That were correct and we were cheering like hope that person remembers they were right. Odd. Hello Owen and Madeline. Thank you for doing this AMA and I'd love it if you could answer a couple of my questions. During production, were there any train cars that you wanted to include, but couldn't because of time restraints? Were you inspired by the movie Snowpiercer in any way for making Infinity Train? Finally, at this point in the series, how many cars do you think Tulip has passed through? Thanks. Response. 1, mall car. Slot car, racing car. We didn't actually have to make too many cuts to cars, these were pretty much all the ones we wanted to do. 2, nope. That came out after the pilot I think? Don't remember the time frame. Sometimes there's just certain ideas that are out there in the zeitgeist and everyone latches onto them at the same time. 3. By episode 8, Tulip has passed through maybe 40 cars or so? We weren't keeping count. We were more thinking about how much time she has actually spent on the train. A lot. Odd. Hey Owen and Madeline, thanks for doing this AMA. I've followed Infinity Train since the pilot was released and I'm happy that it's finally getting its time on CN. I'm also really happy with Tulip as a character. As someone from rural Minnesota who plans on going into computer science and has dealt with their parents' divorce, being able to relate to a character like Tulip really hits home. My question is, what led to the setting of Wisconsin and Tulip getting to Oshkosh for game design camp? Response: wow, that's great. I hope your computer science dreams come true. That sort of stuff was loosely based on what I was doing as a kid her age. The game that she's making is actually almost exactly the first game that I made. I picked Oshkosh because I saw a really good air show there once when I was a kid. Not much more to it than that. However, I think we wanted something relatively far away from house that she had sort of emotionally latched onto. It's a thing you can kinda get wrapped up into when you're a kid. Odd. Hello. For Owen, the music is great. What was your experience showrunning, co-writing with Chrome Canyon, and talking about the kind of music you wanted? Were there other songs you co-wrote besides the title track? For both, having Tulip like onions a lot is really funny. Where did that idea come from? Thank you guys, I love the work everyone's done on Infinity Train. It's great to be a part of the evolution of a pilot to a show as a fan. Response: I was really nervous when I first met Chrome Canyon, but it turns out he's nice. I sometimes give him a melody or tonal piece of music that I made so he can have something to go off of. So the song in the Fist episode is one that I wrote, but he performed it and improved on it. I also came up with the melody when Tulip meets the conductor and he made it crazy good. We started it thinking of the idea that she was a small child and she wanted to eat part of a raw onion that her parents had cut up. They, not being able to tell this stubborn child that she wouldn't like it, just were like, yeah, go ahead. So she did. Do you like it? She lied, unable to admit that she was wrong. Then she just sort of grew to like them out of spite and determination. Now it's kinda her thing. Both. After last night's episodes, it's clear that Infinity Train is carrying the torch for cartoons meant for kids but get pretty scary that Over the Garden Wall and Gravity Falls said before it. Why do you think horror works so well in these sorts of cartoons, and do you think it will become more common in the next few years? Response: I think it might work well in cartoons is because it's a very safe way to experience fear. It lets you experience those emotions without having something scary actually happen to you. Kind of like roller coasters, or haunted houses. I think it will start ramping up soon. For instance, there's the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark movie, and Goosebumps, which seem like a portent of things to come. Both. Hi Owen and Maddie. Absolutely loving Infinity Train. Got 3 quick questions regarding names. I know Tulip's last name being Van Helsing was a joke, sadly, as I loved it as her last name, so can Van Helsing be her canon middle name instead? What's the cat's name? If she doesn't have one, can we call her Kate Mulgrew, as a pun off her voice actress's name? Does Mirror Tulip have a canon name? I like the name Holly personally. It's a plant name, it's completely different from tulips. Holly can be silver, and it's a girl's name, and if we have her surname be Van Helsing, there could be H alliteration with Holly Van Helsing. Response: can't comment on the rest, but Kate Mulgrew is tight. MQ, endorsed by Odd. This is a question for both Owen and Madeline. Did any of you have parents who divorced? And if you did any of your experiences involving it have an influence on Tulip's life and story? Also, was the whole divorce backstory planned when you guys were working on the pilot? I'm sorry if this is too personal. If neither of you feel comfortable answering, then that's okay. Response: 2 of our writers have divorced parents, and their experiences were instrumental in writing Tulip's emotions and journey from a realistic and empathetic perspective. Aside from that, I grew up with a lot of friends whose parents were divorced, and they used to tell me about it at the time. They would use our house as a stable place to escape to, so I wanted to make sure that whatever it was we were showing honored what their experiences were. Odd. Hey Owen and Maddie. Just want to say that as a fellow person from Wisconsin, who also goes to school in Minneapolis, go Gophers, I appreciate all the callouts to us in the first episode. It honestly adds to the more grounded tone of the show in terms of the thematic content, and really helps enhance the feeling of this being a real story. My question is simple: as an aspiring animation/artist who wants to work in cartoons one day, what is the one thing you'd recommend I focus on that would put me ahead of the millions of others who also want to do the same thing? In particular with 2D animation, my dream is working at Titmouse. Thanks for your time. Response: make what you want to make, then put it out in the world. If you're making what you enjoy making, that feeling will show through the work and people will be drawn to that. Also put your email on your website. Please. 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 Both. Greetings Owen and Maddie. Wonderful show you've made thus far. I'm sure tons of people have asked the question of series or miniseries, so I'll ask some original questions. Lol. What was your biggest inspiration for the series? How did you get your start in the animation industry? What's your favorite train car? What is Tulip eating and drinking on this train, like, how is she still alive after a month? Response: 1. Answer this one up top. 2. We both went to college together and we both took board tests to get onto regular show and it worked out. However, basically a big shout out to Toby Jones, who got there first, and recommended us. So I guess be friends with Toby. 3. Ball pit car, Odd Cat's car. There's like, a bunch of cool stuff in there. MQ. Hi there. Is there any reason Wisconsin was chosen as Tulip's home state? The Midwest doesn't usually get much representation in cartoon/animation, so I think it's a pretty interesting choice. Response: her home state is actually Minnesota, though she is traveling to Wisconsin. She's from around North Branch, which is nearest to where I grew up. We just kinda wanted to represent a place that doesn't get represented much. Owen. What's some interesting detail about the design of Infinity Train, things like how the train cars were designed, or how you came up with the conductor's look, that you would like to tell us about? Response: as for the train, we put a lot of thought into the mechanics of it, like how the cars fit together and move around. We wanted it to feel realistic and believable that they could work like that, or as believable as a giant, infinite, magical train can be. MQ. What inspired Tulip? Was there anything in your past that influenced her? Response: I mean, there were a lot of things pulled from my life growing up in MN that we pulled from. That's what people from there call it, they just say MN. MQ. So I'm sure there are a few people that caught the giant snowmen and the bike store commercial jokes. I also learned A to program a bit when I was a teen, so I remember the feeling of accomplishment that she feels when she gets it right, and the feeling of friends being like, I don't get it. Odd. Oh crumbs, I have another question I forgot to ask. Why, of all songs, did Word Up get chosen? It's a bop, I won't lie, but yeah, it was the last thing I was expecting to be the song of Tulip's heart. Response: this was a joke we came up with a million years ago while writing the premise. We all thought it would be really funny if we heard a bunch of fake songs, and then, the very last song was real. It kept making us crack up, and then we'd be like, ha ha ha, but we can't do that for real, right? But then, the more we thought about it, the more it just made sense. Thank you, Cameo. MQ. Thanks for watching everyone. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This is Experimental Journeys.